ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Monday, July 12th. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. You can be a part of the program by calling the White Claw phone lines. We open those up every day for you at 877-420-TALK. That is 877-420-8255. White Claw Hard Seltzer. It is made here. Coming up today on the program, we're going to have comments from Eli, Neal, also Grant Wells. We'll get their thoughts on the upcoming season. It was interesting talking to Eli about the journey getting back to football. So I'm excited to share that with you today. And also when I was talking with Grant, we talked about a couple of things as far as having Tim Cramsey back, having him a part of this coaching staff. I also asked him straight up, was it important that you had Cramsey back to be a part of this new staff, to buy into it? And you'll appreciate his answer. Phone calls are always welcome. Social media, always welcome. You can do that on Twitter at Paul Swann. Also on Facebook, we've got a page for you called The Drive with Paul Swann. And, of course, you can also be a part of the group. Just search The Drive with Paul Swann group. Either way, that's a great way to get a hold of me. Home Run Derby's coming up tonight. We're going to have that for you at 8 o'clock right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. As, of course, it's the All-Star break. Pirates are off today for the next few days. So instead, we've got the Home Run Derby. But, you know, with the draft going on, it was a good time for the Pirates. Pirates selected Louisville catcher Henry Davis with the first pick in the amateur draft on Sunday. So hopefully that will translate into something good for them down the line. Pirates, of course, they could be in a better position. I mean, they are playing okay. Just I don't think they've got enough to maybe get out of the middle of the pack here. That's the problem. You know, some days they're playing pretty good and like, oh, that's the team you expect to see. And then other days it's just they get outclassed, it feels like. I don't know what the disconnect here is. But you get the first overall pick in the amateur draft, and you think you got a good one in Henry Davis. So let's hope that the Pirates can rebuild from there. Of course, basketball action, probably the bigger story I want to get into. I told you the Bucks in 6. I said it, Bucks in 6. And right now, we're 3 games in, and it's possibly Bucks in 6. I'm sticking to that. I'm sticking to Bucks in 6 until absolutely having to acknowledge it's going to end sooner or it's going to go to 7. But it's going to 5 at least because the Bucks just blew up on Phoenix 120-100 on Sunday night. Now it's a 2-1 lead in the NBA Finals. Hey, this NBA Finals thing is hard, isn't it, Phoenix? This is the first time that the Finals have been in Milwaukee since 1974. First time Finals since 1974. That's a long time. That's a little shy of 50 years, but that's still a long time. So Milwaukee back on the main stage of the NBA. And with Giannis, I think you got a shot in this. Giannis fired up. 41 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists. Chris Paul had 19 points and 9 assists, but that was it. I mean, Devin Booker shot just 3 for 14, had 10 points. So really, you didn't get much there. Giannis, 41 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists. Yeah, I'm sticking with Bucks in 6. I will relent if I have to for 7, but I'm taking the Bucks in 6. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Speaking of basketball, Marshall men's basketball picking up another recruit for the 2022 class, getting a verbal commitment from 6'7" Jacob Connor. He is a standout from Kettering, Ohio Alter. He's also playing for the Wildcat Select AAU program. And another name you might recognize on that Wildcat Selects AAU program is Polka High School star and a commit to Virginia, Isaac McNeely. So there you go. What do we got coming up for you tonight? Well, we're going to hear from Eli Neal. I'm going to talk to him. You're going to find out what he thinks about his new journey with the football coach that has only been on the job for a few months. Also, he's kind of all in on Coach Huff. You would think at this point players that are there are all in on Coach Huff. And I want to get from him what excited him about Coach Huff. Also, I wanted to find out from him in his own words, what was it that he's seen that makes him believe that when Coach says closing the gap, he means it, and it's something that can be achieved. So we're going to get into that conversation with Eli Neal. Later on, Grant Wells. Grant has got another year now. He's progressed. He's had a full season. He's had off season, new coach. He's got Tim Cramsey back. There's a lot of buy-in on him. Guys had to basically say, that's our guy. We're going to stick with him. We're going to back him up. And he proved them right. I think that helped him. And also the fact that he was proving them right. The guys that bought in on him feel better about it now, and they got better as the season progressed. Of course, I'm not going to forget the just abysmal finish that the football team made. I can't forget that. But all in all, Grant, I thought, progressed well, and he's got the support of his teammates. They bought in on him. He bought in on them, and it seemed to work out. So I'm going to talk to Grant a little bit later on. We'll get your phone calls in, of course, at 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. I got more coming up, including Eli Neal, when we continue with today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
We're taking Paul Swann everywhere. Download or subscribe to The Drive with Paul Swann on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the Monday, July 12th edition, The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Last week I had a chance to catch up with Eli Neal. You know, we're getting closer to football season when we start to have these little get-togethers once again. And it was a while since I've talked to Eli. It's been a while since I've talked to a lot of these guys. Last time really had a chance to even talk to some of them was on Zoom. And it's just better in person. These kids, they put up with Zoom, but it's just better to actually be able to talk to someone. And that's what I did with Eli earlier last week. And I want to kind of get from him what his journey was like, just trying to get back to football. You got a new coach, and you're trying to get back to football. You've gone through a pandemic now, and things are getting closer to what you remember them to be. So what was that journey like for him, just trying to get back to what football was?
It actually hasn't been as bad as most people would think. Coach Huff coming in with just the energy that the team has as a whole. You know, the team has pretty much been a player-led team, and we always know we want to go just as players. And Coach Huff coming in with just this new energy, and it just keeps us afloat. Like, all the coaches have the same energy, keeps us afloat. Even days, everyone gonna have down days and days where it's like, we gotta go again. But just the energy of this program and just this football team has just been through the roof, and it's just made the transition way easier than most would think.
So the energy's there. The transition has been pretty good. He's enjoying things so far with Coach Huff, and I want to know from him what excited him most about getting back to action.
Full capacity. That's what motivates me a lot. You know, I got a taste of it my freshman year and just got to be able to see just a stadium full of fans, and it was great. You know, and just being able to be a leader on this team and be able to just make my presence felt and just feel the rush of the crowd when everyone makes a big play. It's just going to be amazing this year.
See, that's important. These kids, they feed off the fans. This is important. So if you're there and you're supporting the team and you're cheering and you're excited, they're feeding off of that. Just want to point that out. That's what excites him the most about getting back to action, being able to perform in front of you, in front of fans. Same kind of direction here. What excited him most about Coach Huff?
Coach Huff comes in and preaches close the gap. And, you know, that's just something we've been trying to do as a program for the last couple of years. It always seems like, you know, we're right there, we're doing good, number one in the conference, and then it's just small mistakes that just lead to a ultimate, like, bigger slip-up. And him coming in just preaching close the gap just helped us a whole lot and just help us keep going.
Yeah, that's a good point, because you point that out. Hey, you're a good team. You got a lot to work with here. There have been some things that have held you back, but they're fixable, and Coach Huff is really selling home close the gap. That's something you're going to hear. I'm going to chart it if I remember to every time he talks about closing the gap. I'm just going to have a chart, because he's really trying to make sure that these kids buy into closing the gap, getting better every day, trying to make sure that you're doing everything you need to do to get from where you want to be from where you are, thus closing the gap. But actions do speak louder than words. You got to have something that shows you that this is real. This isn't just coach speak. This isn't him trying to say something motivational. You got to actually have something tangible, something that you've seen, you have experienced, something that makes you want to buy into what he's saying about closing the gap. And this is what it was for Eli Neal.
Just a couple things that he's came in and iterated from the beginning is we're a lot more uniform now. From the things we wear, the lines we're in, what we eat, what we do, coming in and just changing our bodies as a whole, like physically. We came in, the strength coaches, everyone cut a lot of fat off. We had our goal body weights and this, that, and the third, and just be able to take pictures in the beginning and at the end of losing however much weight you lost or gaining however much weight you need to gain. And it seems like something so small, but that's something that can just carry you through the rest of the season, just the small things like that.
He's got a point. You can start rebuilding a team, or you can start putting a team in order by making those personal evaluations. I mean, do you need to get bigger? Do you need to get faster? Do you need to get stronger? And how do you do that? The weight room is very important, and that's something that he has seen that makes him believe, okay, they're serious here about this. They're putting everything into this. They want to make sure that we are where we need to be able to do this. So that was my takeaway from him. That was something tangible for him, not just, hey, we're going to do this. Well, how do you do this? Well, first of all, we're going to get you to where you need to be. And you have seen the weight room. You have seen the way that Marshall has been able to motivate these kids, energize these kids, and show them the results. But you know what? Self-evaluations aside, and I've asked Eli a little bit later on what he thought of how he was progressing. He's been out there grinding. He's been with his teammates. He's been with his brothers. He's been out there. Same situation everyone else is in. And I asked him just to kind of give me an idea of when you're out there, when you look around, when you see guys working out every day, when you see guys grinding, who's impressed you most?
If I can be 100% honest, I know it's going to seem like a cliche answer, but everybody. Just the hunger after last season and the way last season ended, you can see it in everyone's eyes every second of the day. Anytime we step out on the field, you can tell that we really want it and we want to see change here. And just bring it all the way home. So just to give you an honest answer, that's everyone on the team, from the O-line to the receivers to tight ends, the whole defense. We're still hungry. We still want to be what we're destined to be.
Okay, that's a great generic answer. I mean, that's a very good answer. Yeah, I'm not going to single anyone out. You know, I think everybody's been doing well. They're progressing. Nah, I didn't want that. I wouldn't take that. So I kind of put him on the spot. Like, look. All right, I'm going to put you on the spot. You have to tell me. You got to give me somebody who's standing out most to you, who's put the most in that you think that is going to have a great season. You know, I had to have somebody from him. Here's who he gave me.
Abraham Beauplan. Okay. He played next to me last year, a linebacker, but we switched from 3-4, like where we had 4 linebackers out there, and 3. I'm tripping. Well, we have 3 linebackers out there, and now we're switching to 2, and he's playing more of a wheel role instead of a Sam Backer role, so he's going to get to play a lot more this year, and I just want to see him be able to play a whole game and see how it turns out. He's a hard worker, and I'm just excited to see him.
So that's who he's excited to see. Now, I told him to look inward. I wanted to know from Eli where he was at. Give me a self-evaluation.
Where I'm at right now is I'm the most locked in I've ever been. I know this season is going to be real vital to where I'm trying to go and who I'm trying to be. And I've been taking tremendous strides towards that. Last year, I played at 240 the whole season. I cut that weight, and I'm going to play a little bit lighter this year. It's going to be a surprise for y'all. I'm not going to tell y'all now, but it's going to be a surprise. I cut that weight, and I'm playing a lot more different this year. I'm getting back to my roots in the way that I played more in high school. Last year, I was more of a run stopper. I'm going to get to fly around a whole lot more this year.
Conditioning helps. If you're going to fly around, you better be in good shape. So he's not going to tell us all the details just yet. I'm looking forward to seeing where he's at when the time comes. Grant Wells, we're going to hear from him when we continue. What stood out to you about what Eli Neal had to say? Where would you put him as far as evaluating where he's at, evaluating the season for him? What are your thoughts on Eli Neal? Find me on Twitter at Paul Swann. Also, Facebook, The Drive with Paul Swann. What's your take on Eli Neal? When we continue, we're going to get Grant Wells' thoughts. I asked him basically, how have you progressed this year? Kind of wanted to get a feel from him, sort of a self-evaluation as well. Also, how important was it to have Tim Cramsey back? Was that a big deal for you? Did you need Tim Cramsey to buy in on this coaching staff? You'll find out what he had to say when we continue with today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Our phone lines this hour brought to you by White Claw at 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. White Claw Hard Seltzer, it is made pure. Grant Wells had a chance to catch up with the quarterback of the Thundering Herd last week. We got into a lot of good things. I asked him about name, image, and likeness. I kind of asked him a little bit about what his options are in offense, but I want to start with how he's progressed. Last year he was thrown into it. He's thrown into the situation. He's the quarterback. He's going to be the guy starting, and there was a lot of buy-in. He comes out, he performs well, and you feel really good about where he's at his stage of his career. And so now he's had some time. He's got a new coach. He's had some time. He's gone through it. So nothing's really new for him as far as you know what to expect from being on the field. You know the game speed now. You know everything. I mean, you're playing at a college football level now. You know it. And you did well. But with a coach coming in that you haven't worked with before up until this point and going through his expectations and trying to get better at the same time, and doing all this while we're still dealing with a pandemic, I just want to know what was new from him. What was different as he's progressed from last year?
Yeah, the mentality is completely different than last year. I got the job around this time last year, and I didn't have that much time to work with the receivers and the offense, as the leader. But I've used this time this summer to work on my leadership and, just the relationship I've had with all the guys on the offense.
And that brought me up to the buy-in from last year. I mean, he was basically appointed the leader. Here he is. He's your quarterback. And the guys on the offensive line trusted him and said, look, we're backing you up. Let's go do this. We're gonna buy in on you. And he had to have that so he could go out there and perform and have the confidence to perform. And so now he's been through that. The guys are backing him up. They know what to expect. They see how he's working. They're all in on Grant Wells. Is that buy-in from last year paying off this year at this point?
Sure. I mean, I had to gain their trust because it was a very mature offense, and I was the young guy out there. There was no question about that, and I certainly worked on gaining their trust fast and quickly because the season was just right around the corner this time last year. And now that I have their trust, and now that this is a very mature team, and I'm finally in that crowd, all that stuff that we did last year is just growing right now.
Now, one thing that's going to benefit him is you've got a new head coach. So you're going to conform to, of course, what his expectations are. He's putting you in a different direction. He wants to do things the Charles Huff way. He's the head coach. That's why he was brought in, to do things the Charles Huff way. But at the same time, you've got it maybe a little easier. I know maybe that's not fair. You've got a more familiar situation. Maybe the playbook's going to be opened up a lot more now that you've had some time under Tim Cramsey. But hey, you got Tim Cramsey. He's back. He's with you once again. So really, your dynamic, while different, in so many ways stays the same. And Grant talked about that.
Sure, it's certainly different. Like you said, my guy is still here, the guy I talk to every single day, the guy that I have to have, a great relationship and think alike with Crams is still here, and that's great. But also we have, a bunch of other new coaching staffs, coaches here that, along with everybody else, we have to have a relationship with because we're all, going to have to work together throughout this whole season. So, I think we've done that in the spring. I think we had a great spring, and we learned a lot about each other in the spring, and practicing and going through the games and everything. So that was new, and I think that went really well. And my relationship with Cramsey is just growing. I think it's getting better day by day. Like I said earlier, I talk to him every day about what's going on with the team and what's going on with the offense and everything. So we're starting to think alike, and that's going to pay dividends in the season.
Yeah, if you're kind of seeing what your quarterback coach is seeing or your offensive coordinator is seeing, you're kind of seeing a little bit more of what the guys coaching you are seeing, and you're starting to see, oh yeah, that's where I need to be. It makes more sense, and so when they ask you to do something, you know a little bit better. You know what you're looking to do, what is expected, why they're asking you to do that. So that's a plus there. But with any quarterback, there's going to be a buy-in, right? Again, I keep talking about that. There's a buy-in. And for a lot of these guys, coming back to the situation with Coach Huff, and you're sitting there, this is a new coach, okay. Doc was my guy. And now there's this new guy. And you had to buy in on him. For Grant, I asked him about the buy-in a little bit different. Not what was it about closing the gap that made you say that I'm in on this. It's just, hey, here's a situation where everything's changing for you, and all the coaches are going to be different, but there's Tim Cramsey. Was it important to have Coach Cramsey back to really get you to buy in on this new staff?
No, I wouldn't say I had to have him here to be here. But it certainly helped. That was certainly one guy that I could ask questions that I probably wouldn't ask a new coach, and he'd give me answers. So having that guy still here and pretty much going through the same thing I did, just on a different level, was very very helpful.
Now, a little bit more on his own team. I kind of want to get a feel from him. He's got a different situation than some of the other guys. You got running backs, you got wide receivers, you got offensive linemen. I just want to kind of get a feel from him. Where do you see some of the better performances, or who's standing out to you?
Billy Ross is some guy I'm really excited to see. It's no secret we lost a big weapon on the offensive line, and I think he'll fit right in with that offensive line. It's a very mature offensive line, a lot of games under their belt, and that's one group I don't really have to worry about. I think I felt really well with them, and the running backs is it's another position that we lost a big part of, but I think we have more than enough pieces there to be successful. With Sheen, with Pop, with Knowledge, and Shell. Shell's one of the biggest leaders on the team, and he's going to have that room tight. And then the receivers, that's they're finally getting to be where they have games under their belt, and we have sitting here last year that was a young room, and that's not the same this year, and I'm super excited about that.
Grant Wells excited about really what he's got to work with. And so I wanted to know from him, just after hearing that a little bit, does he feel like he's got more options now? When you look across the line, you see what you've got to work with, you see who you can go to. Do you feel like you've got more options now on offense?
There were a few pieces lost, whether in the transfer portal or on the draft. And I wish those guys the best, but, the guys that we have here in the positions I just named, this can be our second year together with me, and we're all starting to speak the same language. We're all starting to think the same, and that's going to be huge in this offense that we're putting in. Is we have to start thinking alike. And it would have been hard last year with me not playing with them, but last year we had all that experience and all that time together in games and in practice that we're starting to think alike, and that's only going to help.
You know what that sounds like to me? The playbook's opening up. The playbook is opening up, and I've already heard that from a few guys. Talking to them, they're going to throw the ball deep. It's going to go over some heads, and I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see what kind of offense we'll see on the field. Now, finally, when talking to Grant, name, image, likeness. That's not going away. That's going to be the new battleground for recruiting. I mean, just look at what Miami is involved in right now. Seriously, Google NIL Miami. Just Google it, and you can see all the insanity that's going on. This is going to be the new frontier, and you're going to have – I don't know yet if there's going to be some cohesiveness to this, because it is, to use a cliche, it's the Wild Wild West out there. It really is. It's a new frontier. I'm not saying it's lawless. I'm not saying that. It's not Tombstone here. It's just the Wild Wild West. Think of it in movie terms. It's like, I don't want to say it's wagon train just yet, but it's the Wild Wild West. It's not lawless, but we don't know. We're all trying to figure this out right now. I mean, you might have an altercation at the saloon now and then, maybe. I don't know, but we don't know what's going to happen here. What kind of uniform regulations will Congress, if any, throw on this here? Will there be stronger guidance from the NCAA? Okay, this is what we need to see happen. Will something happen to make this more uniform? But as it stands right now, name, image, likeness, that is going to be the new frontier, the new battleground. And if schools can't help their student athletes with opportunities, are they going to lose recruits? I don't think you're going to lose out on too many kids because of name, image, and likeness. You might lose a kid. You might lose someone who sees that and thinks that outweighs some of the other things that you are bringing to the table, some of the other benefits you're offering as a coach, as a football program. And, of course, you're going to have those kids. But at the same time, name, image, and likeness now opens up some new avenues, some new opportunities. And I wanted to get Grant's take on now being in a place where a lot of other students, not necessarily student athletes, but just students, they can take advantage of their name, image, and likeness. They can go out, and if they're able to put together deals, they can do it and still be in college. Why can't you, right? Here's Grant's take on it.
I'm super thankful that the NCAA finally passed this rule. I mean, you know as well as I do that we don't have the same opportunities to make money as they do. We're here pretty much 24/7 in this facility, so the fact that we can finally market ourselves and make money is going to be huge in the fact that NCAA players can make money, and we as student athletes have a bigger opportunity to make money because we can market ourselves on the field unlike any other people. So we're finally going to be able to make money off not just money but just market ourselves as a person off the field for the time we spent here. The relationships that I'm going to make through this name, image, and likeness bill is going to be more beneficial than any kind of money that I'm going to make, and those relationships weren't really available without this rule because I didn't really have time to make those relationships on a personal level without this.
So now he can make some relationships. He can form business partnerships, possibly. He can take advantage of his name, his image, his likeness. He can cash in on some of the value of being the Marshall quarterback has or being Grant Wells has. Honestly, here's the game plan now. These kids, all of them, doesn't matter if it's tennis, volleyball, softball, soccer, track and field, basketball, swim and dive teams, golf, football. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter sport. It comes down to this. They're all going to have to take pages out of the social media influencer playbook. That's how you're going to have to do this right now. We'll see how this evolves, but they're all influencers right now. That's where they're going to cash in. Some are going to maybe get enough to go to a movie, have a nice dinner, pay for some books, maybe get a couple of new shirts, just little things. Maybe didn't have the extra cash to do that. Other universities, yeah, maybe these kids are going to get major deals. shoe deals. That's a possibility. I mean, it's Wild Wild West, I said. It is. It's a wilderness out there. It is Wild Wild West. It's not Wagon Train just yet. It's not the Oregon Trail either. It's not that bad. It's the Wild Wild West. We don't know what's going to happen. But now these kids are going to have to take from the social media influencer. I mean, next thing you know, could you see Grant Wells monetizing Grant Wells' name on Twitch? He could be on Twitch making that Twitch money. He could be making that streamer money. He could be on YouTube. He could be an influencer. He could be like some former athletes who have taken to Instagram and becoming a social media influencer, and you see products within their carefully orchestrated, photogenic posts and making money. You could see Grant Wells being a social media influencer. Eli Neal could be a social media influencer now, making money off of just being Eli Neal. I would like to make money off of being Paul Swann. Grant Wells can make money off of being Grant Wells. Eli Neal, he can be making money off of being Eli Neal. And when we continue, we're going to wrap it up with today's edition of The Drive. We got to make money so I can be here and try to make money as Paul Swann. We'll be back after the break here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
We're wrapping up today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Sad news for those of you who follow professional wrestling. Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful. He's a WWE Hall of Famer and one of the first 4 men to main event the first ever WrestleMania. Passed away today at the age of 71. The news was announced by his son, Travis Orndorff, on an Instagram post. Cause of death not given at this time. Paul Orndorff, before his wrestling career, a college football star at the University of Tampa. He was selected by the New Orleans Saints in the 1973 NFL Draft. Didn't pass the physical, though. Never played in the NFL. Then he began his wrestling career. He was a part of some of the NWA territories. He was in the WWE. He was a manager. He was managed by Rowdy Roddy Piper, and he started with Hogan feuding. And so he was in the main event of the first ever WrestleMania. Him, Rowdy Roddy Piper versus Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. And at that point, that's when I think wrestling, not for the hardcore, if you were hardcore in it, you were watching the old Georgia Championship Wrestling, you were watching Mid-South Wrestling, Mid-Atlantic Wrestling, you were watching all those, I guess, regional. I mean, wrestling was like regional back then, and WWE was like, no, our territory's wherever we declare it to be. And so wrestling was becoming mainstream again, and Paul Orndorff was a big part of that. He had success as a tag champion, went back to WCW, wrestled there. But, I mean, you just couldn't mistake Mr. Wonderful. That was a great shtick, him, Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, and he could back it up too. And so he passes away, age of 71. That was sort of a kick today to the stomach because you remember these guys, part of your childhood, growing up, watching professional wrestling, and it was a little bit more cartoony than in the WWE. It really got cartoony for a while. I mean, there was an actual wrestling cartoon. It did get cartoony, but Paul Orndorff was a tremendous talent, and he passes away at 71, and I hate to see that. I mean, wrestlers pass away at such an early age. I mean, 71's not terribly old. You've lived a good life, but still, 71's pretty young compared to some other guys who are making it to their 80s and 90s. So you hate to hear that, but still. Paul Orndorff passing away at age of 71. There will only be one Mr. Wonderful. And he was definitely a important part of the renaissance of wrestling, especially the WWE. It was then the WWF, the World Wrestling Federation, surge into the mainstream. That's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to do it all over again with you here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Home Run Derby coming up tonight, 8 o'clock. You can listen to it right here or on Cat Sports 93.3 and 1340. We got the All-Star game tomorrow. Be back here tomorrow. We'll have more for you. Good night, everyone.